Welcome back. As you know, there's already one opening on the Supreme Court with the passing of Antonin Scalia. And since Republicans will not even allow a vote on Merrick Garland, the president's nominee to replace Scalia, it is pretty certain that if elected, Hillary Clinton will appoint at least one justice. Fox.com recently described what a Hillary victory could mean for the High Court. Quote, "The Supreme Court will become something it has not been in nearly 50 years, made up of a majority of Democratic-appointed justices. The unfilled vacancy of Scalia's seat, combined with a Hillary Clinton victory in November, could set the court on a new course." And joining us now for more is the Washington Post Supreme Court reporter, Robert Barnes. Robert, thank you as always for the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
First off, do you think there internally is a little bit of remorse in some Republican circles on Capitol Hill that maybe they should have voted when they had a chance on Merrick Garland, given the state of at least the polls, if you believe them, 70 some odd days out from the election?
Well, it certainly doesn't seem to be going the way they thought. You know, they said that this was a principal thing, that the next president should be able to make this appointment, the one to replace Justice Antonin Scalia. But, you know, so far it looks like it's going to be Hillary Clinton to do that if the Republicans hold true.
To that end, and obviously this is all guesswork, but what is the conventional wisdom as to the next president, how many appointees she or he may appoint over the course of the next 4 years? Which justices, depending on the outcome of the election, may in fact retire upon her, in this case, Hillary Clinton, being sworn in?
Yeah, well, you know, the most unpredictable thing in American politics is when a president is going to get a chance to make a Supreme Court nomination, because it is up to the justices when they want to leave the court. They have lifetime appointments. That said, there are three who are 78 or older. Justice Ginsburg is 83. Justice Kennedy is 80. Justice Stephen Breyer is 78. And so if the next president has an 8-year term, you would think that somewhere in there, there's going to be at least one or two openings. And at the same time, you know, we never know what the future holds. No one thought that Justice Scalia was ready to leave the court, of course, and then he died in office.
You know, you have to go back to Abe Fortas when he resigned. Really, since then, and some justices, even those nominated by Republican presidents, have certainly been more left than right in terms of the rulings. But nonetheless, you got to go back to '69, when there would be the first chance to have a plurality of Democratic-appointed justices to the High Court. And when you go through, Robert, some of the different cases that the next Supreme Court may have to decide, immigration, religious liberty, Second Amendment, possibly revisiting Citizens United, it really could be seismic, especially given the makeup of the court, how some of these cases could either change or be modified.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's been a long time since there's been a liberal majority on the Supreme Court. Now, that's not to say there haven't been liberal outcomes. Certainly there have. Finding a constitutional right to same-sex marriage, for instance, was one of those. But in those cases, the four liberals had to find one of the conservatives to join them, Justice Kennedy usually. And that meant that Justice Kennedy got to decide how broad that ruling is, or how that ruling was based. Once the liberals have control of the court, they won't have need for a conservative anymore. They always want to have decisions with the broadest possible number of justices on them, because they think that the public accepts those better. But it would be a real change to have a liberal majority on the court.
You know, we saw a couple months ago, Robert, in the Ninth Circuit, that they basically ruled that a concealed carry or an assault weapon right was not a right granted under the Second Amendment. Give an idea, as it relates to the Second Amendment, how potentially, with the new makeup of a court, it could be redefined.
Well, you know, that ruling in Heller a few years ago that found that there was a Second Amendment right for citizens to have a gun in their home for personal protection, for self-defense, the court really hasn't revisited that since then. The court has upheld any number of, or not upheld, the court has refused to hear any number of challenges to state regulations that they say impinge on the Second Amendment. I don't think that you would see Heller overturned, but I think that you would see a number of these state and local restrictions on gun ownership upheld if there was a majority of liberals on the Supreme Court. But you know, this is the way it's been a little bit with Chief Justice John Roberts. The conservatives haven't overturned precedents. They've just weakened them and made the outcome slightly different.
How about immigration? How could the court kind of break the stalemate that we've seen here, not just under Democratic presidents with Obama, but even before him, Bush? How could they kind of clear up, obviously, some of the confusion still surrounding immigration and policy right now?
I think the court would very much like it if Congress did that. You know, that it's always better for the elected branch to make those kinds of decisions. At the same time, if that's not going to happen, if there's not going to be comprehensive immigration reform, the court has shown that it thinks that the federal government takes the lead role in these kinds of decisions, and I think is willing to give the president plenty of leeway. You saw in this past term, however, with this executive action that the president has done, the court split 4-4. And so if we're faced with a situation like that again, whoever the new justice is going to be the one that breaks the tie on that.
And Robert, we've seen, especially when we look at the dissenting opinions, in the religious freedom case, or the Hobby Lobby case, and also as it relates to Citizens United, the minority holdings here have been livid as to the final decision. With a new makeup of a court, if they revisited those cases, is it possible they get flipped on their ear?
Absolutely. I think that the religious, so-called religious liberty cases are ones in which there is a real disagreement on the court, a real balance of 4 on one side, 4 on the other. And so the next justice is going to make a huge difference in that. You're absolutely right.
Robert, it will be a very interesting next few months, to say the least. I really appreciate the time, though. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up next, everybody, we will pivot to some local news. We'll have headlines for you. Stay with us.